I always thought so-called clean eating was just a marketing trick. Something slapped on vegan granola bars and overpriced smoothies in Silver Lake cafes. But John said this was different. "It's not a diet," he told me, eyes wide and excited. "It's a spiritual reset." We were sitting on our couch in LA, surrounded by yoga mats, digital detox journals, and a bubbling pot of what would become our daily meal, cabbage soup. The smell was already souring the air. We had just joined Soul Spiral Retreat, a 30-day digital wellness immersion promising physical purification and soul elevation. A new age program run through an exclusive app with a waiting list longer than Coachella's. Entry required a video application, blood panel, and psychological screening. We got in, and we were proud of it. The rules were clear. Soup 3 times a day, complete celibacy, 4 daily meditations, no contact with outsiders, and mandatory uploads. Videos, photos, progress logs, shared daily with the Soul Spiral community. Transparency, they said, is the gateway to transcendence. On day 4, a new rule appeared on the app. Clothing is ego. The body is truth. Upload visual evidence of release. No edits, no masks. John was skeptical at first, but I saw the shift in him. The comments rolled in under his pictures. Beautiful energy. Masculine surrender. You're almost there. He started posting every day. Me too. The attention was addicting. We were rising fast in the ranks. Top 20, then top 10. By day 9, John's ribs started showing. He laughed it off, chugging lemon water. "Burning through the old self," he'd say. But I noticed something else. Men in the top 10 began disappearing. Zach, the firefighter from Oregon. Milo, the yogi from Austin. Dylan, who used to do shirtless affirmations in his greenhouse. Gone. Profiles inactive. No farewell posts. I messaged support. No reply. John said I was overthinking. Some people just can't handle the transformation. On day 12, John fainted during our 7 p.m. breath work. His body collapsed like a stringless puppet. I screamed. But by the time he woke, he smiled like it had been a vision. That night, we heard the guru's voice for the first time. A live stream, audio only. His voice was slow and soothing, like warm milk and static. The masculine must release all resistance. The feminine must rise. Only then can truth awaken. On day 16, I got a message. Congratulations, Natalie. You have been chosen for Ascension. Only the top female participants were invited to complete their transformation at Soul Spiral's private island ashram. John wasn't eligible. His vitals had dropped too low. I cried when I hugged him goodbye. He was too weak to lift his arms. I flew alone. No phone allowed, no luggage, just a brown robe and the app on a locked device they handed me in flight. When I landed, guards in brown uniforms greeted me with soft smiles and silent nods. The island was beautiful in the way haunted places are. Too quiet. The trees didn't sway. The birds didn't chirp. At the center stood the ashram. A white dome, windowless, with crescent symbols carved into the stone. Inside were 27 other women, all in brown robes, all smiling, all glowing with hunger and something else. Something fanatic. The first night, we were summoned to the moon room. It was circular, clean, cameras everywhere. The guru's voice played through speakers in the walls. Tonight, as every night, one will receive the blessing. We sat cross-legged in silence. Then the guards came in, walked the circle, and stopped at a girl named Elise. She stood without a word, eyes glassy. She followed them through a black velvet curtain. She returned before dawn. She didn't speak, just stared out the window until sunrise. On day 19, I saw the ocean for the first time. It wasn't allowed, but I snuck out during afternoon mantra. I followed the path behind the greenhouse and climbed over the fence. There was a dock and a boat, but it was chained. No oars, no motor, just a prop. I tried to talk to a guard. "Can I call home, just once?" He smiled gently. "Why would you want to go back?" The blessings continued each night. Always a different girl. Always silence after. I tried to talk to Lacey, who had been selected the night before. She was walking slowly that morning, bent and holding her lower back. Her eyes were red. "Are you okay?" I asked. She didn't answer, just walked past me like I wasn't there. Day 22. I packed a bag with the robe, 3 apples from the offering plate, and the locked tablet. I was going to try the ocean again. I never made it. 2 guards were waiting at my door. "The guru has requested you." They led me through the moon room, past the black curtain. The room was dim, candles everywhere, incense so thick it coated my tongue. I was told to kneel. A voice, gentle as silk, whispered, "Do you accept the blessing?" I paused. I nodded, and then the screen in the corner turned on. Live chat. Hundreds watching. Hearts, fire emojis, dollar tips. "She's ready. Ascension incoming. Take me next, oh my guru!" The blessing happened behind closed eyes. I don't want to describe the details. I woke up in my room, sore. The robe neatly folded on my bed. My tablet blinking. "Congrats, Natalie. You are now a level 3 flame bearer." Day 25. I saw Lacey again. She was in the kitchen, laughing with a guard. I pulled her aside. "You're not like the others," I said. She looked at me, smiled, and dropped the whisper. "It's a show. They're paying to watch you break." "What?" She pulled out a hidden phone, scrolled through a dashboard. "Only stands. Premium stream. Trauma as art. The guru's a failed actor from Utah. This whole thing is a tech startup disguised as a cult." My mouth went dry. "What about John?" She shrugged. "He actually believed. Most don't. But his organs were failing. He didn't make it." I staggered back. Lacey kept scrolling. "Don't be mad. You're making us a lot of money." "Describe a lot." "Your blessing stream pulled in $50K. My jaw dropped. That night, I didn't resist. We chanted. I smiled. I bowed. In the moon room, I sat taller than ever. The guru's voice returned. "Surrender, and you will be seen." I looked directly into the livestream camera. "My name is Natalie," I said. "I was lost. Now I'm found. I am clean. I am blessed." Tips exploded on the screen. Viewers cheered. I kept smiling. 2 weeks later, somewhere in LA, a new influencer joins the Soul Spiral app. Blonde, tan, perfect teeth. She uploads her day 1 photo with hashtag raw reset. The comment section read, "You've got that flame bearer glow. Natalie made it. You can too. Pain is freedom." This story is inspired from an incident shared by one of our Broccoli fam subscribers. He said, quote, "A few years back, my wife decided that we should try this cabbage soup diet that she read about online. She whipped up a monstrous cauldron of cabbage stew that smelled like someone boiled socks and sadness. That thing became our lunch and dinner for days. Each day brought a new twist. One day you could drown yourself in skim milk. Yum. The next it was bananas galore. With the stew, of course. Always the stew. I vaguely remember a day where you could eat a potato. That one felt like a national holiday in comparison. But that soup, that soupy punishment, it'll haunt my nose and taste buds forever."
I've known Mark since high school. Back then, he was a beast. State-level wrestler. cut from stone. The kind of kid who could drop 10 pounds in a week and still take your head off on the mat. But life happens. After graduation, he stopped wrestling and started eating like he was still burning 1,000 calories a day. Within 5 years, Mark didn't even look like an athlete anymore. He looked like a cautionary tale. I remember the day he told me about the bet. We were in his garage, sweat sticking to the concrete floor, playing Settlers of Catan, while his old fan did a half-assed job pretending it was fall in Alabama. I was halfway through my third slice of pepperoni when Mark said, "You know you just ate more calories than I've had in 2 weeks, right?" I laughed. He didn't. "I made a bet," he said. $2,000 each from both of them. Wait, what? He leaned forward, eyes bloodshot from whatever soup fast he was on. I told Ricky and Donnie I could lose 50 pounds in a month, and they shook on it. That's not healthy, man. No shit. That's why they agreed. They think I can't do it, but I've done worse. You remember regionals junior year? He wasn't wrong. That year, he dropped 14 pounds in 3 days by jogging in trash bags. "This time it's just a little bit longer," he muttered. "Just gotta break my body like a wild horse." The next few weeks were something out of a war documentary. Mark lived on broth. Not even soup, just broth. The guy had bones in his fridge like some Appalachian witch. Every couple of days, he'd let himself lick a cracker or two. He stopped answering texts unless they were about weigh-ins. I visited again around week 3. He looked like shit, but determined as hell. "I'm 44 pounds down," he said, shivering under a hoodie soaked in his own sweat. "Almost there." Dude, this is crazy. He didn't even look at me. "I want the money." The last week was peak madness. I'd heard from his roommate that Mark turned the bathroom into a steam cave, ran the shower full heat for hours, blocked the vents, sealed the door with towels. He'd sit in there for hours, meditating like a monk in hell. When he came out, he'd collapse, sometimes vomiting bile, and then he'd get back up. Weigh-in day. Ricky and Donnie came over, all smug grims and vape clouds. "You really think he did it?" Ricky laughed, unwrapping a chicken sandwich like a villain. Mark stepped out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, skin pale and sagging like wax. He climbed on the scale, 238.2. He started at 289.5. Silence. "Shit," Donnie muttered. Mark stared at them like he was waiting for a blessing. "You cheated," Ricky finally said. "You just lost water weight. It doesn't count." Mark's jaw flexed. "We didn't say how, just if." "Nah, man," Donnie added, backpedaling like a rat. "That's not real weight loss. This was about fat, and you're just draining fluids. We're not paying." Mark didn't say anything. He just turned and walked away. That's where it should have ended, but it didn't. 3 nights later, Ricky was arrested, DUI, and assaulting a cop. No big shock. What was shocking was that his apartment had been broken into, trashed, electronics missing, door kicked in. Cops assumed it was just payback from some dealer. Then Donnie's house caught fire. Electrical issue, they said. A total loss. He and his girlfriend barely made it out. And Mark, he disappeared. His phone went dark. His roommate said he left a note. "They're gonna pay." That was it. A week passed, and then 2. One night I was driving home and I saw his car parked outside this old gym we used to hit up in high school. It had been shut down years ago, so I pulled over. Inside, the place smelled like mold and burnt rubber. The lights were on, though. I followed a noise, some kind of weird clanking and dragging, into the weight room. Mark was there, but he wasn't right. He'd grown a patchy, wild beard. "Hey," I said cautiously. He turned slowly, smiling like a corpse. "Harry," he said, "you came." "What are you doing here, man?" He lifted something from behind the bench press. It was Ricky's laptop, charred. They didn't pay, he whispered. So I took what they owed me. I felt my stomach drop. Wait, you started the fire? He chuckled. Not directly, but Donnie always plugs his PS5 into a 2-socket splitter. I just moved some things around and called electrical encouragement. I backed up a step. And Ricky? Assaulted a cop while blackout drunk. I just nudged the timeline. Slipped him a few extra tabs of Xanax at the bar. The guy's liver's been screaming for years now anyway. I stood there, heart racing. Jesus, Mark, that's insane. He dropped the laptop. They bet against me, and they didn't pay. You think I was just gonna take that? I didn't call the cops. I didn't tell anyone. A week later, Donnie died in his sleep. Carbon monoxide leak. A freak accident, the news said. And Ricky? He got jumped in jail. Stabbed with a pen. Still alive, but barely. I visited Mark one last time. He was living at a shitty motel outside Talladega. Body emaciated, but proud. Surrounded by protein bars and cheap vodka. You know I can't let this slide, I told him. He grinned. Sure you can. You're just like me, Harry. You don't like when people break the deal. No, but I also don't like murder. Nobody got murdered. Just lost. He looked at me for a long time. You tell anyone, and I'll know, he said. And I'll count you next. I kept quiet and moved on with life. This story is loosely inspired from an incident shared by one of our subscribers. His friend did lose weight and won the bet, and the guys who had to pay didn't pay. He was angry, but thankfully that was the end of the story in real life. When you grow up with someone, you never expect them to become the villain in your story. I had known Rachel since I was 12. We met in middle school, stayed close through high school, and by our mid-20s, we were practically family. So when she suggested we move in together with her boyfriend, I didn't hesitate, although I should have. I'm handicapped, but when I'm not in my wheelchair, I scoot or crawl around the house. It's not ideal, but I've adapted. Before we moved in, I had one simple request. No large dog. Not because I hate them, but quite the opposite. I adore animals, but I fear being knocked over or, worse, knocked down the stairs. I lived in the basement, and the thought of a dog barreling towards me while I was scooting up to the kitchen terrified me. Rachel promised. She nodded and smiled and said, "Of course, we'd never do that. We get it." 3 weeks after moving in, they brought home a pit bull. Not just any pit bull, a hyper, untrained, unspayed young female that was basically a fur missile with legs. And again, I have nothing against animals. She was a sweetheart, but she had no boundaries. None. I was constantly dodging her enthusiastic leaps, especially when I was out of my chair. They tried half-heartedly to control her, yelling, "No, down," from across the room when glued to the couch. Walks? Forget it. The dog lived on the deck, a wooden deck above my basement window, the same deck where I stored my wheelchair. One morning, I was running late for class. I crawled up to the backyard, reached under the deck for my chair, and froze. It was soaked. The smell hit me. Dog piss. My goddamn wheelchair was saturated in it. I sat there on the cold ground, stunned, while Rachel came out in her pajama shorts, sipping coffee. "Your dog pissed on my wheelchair," I said. She blinked. "Oh shit, I didn't realize. Sorry. That was it. No offer to clean it, no urgency or remorse, and nothing changed. She kept letting the dog out onto the deck. It happened again a few weeks later, and then came the trash juice incident. One night I came home late and had to scoot through a gauntlet of liquid filth. Some torn garbage bag had leaked down the stairs and into the hallway leading into my room. It was rancid, thick. My boyfriend at the time lost it. He grabbed a marker and wrote in big bold letters on the fridge, "Clean up the trash juice in the hall." The next morning, they were furious. It's not about the trash, but the tone of the message. You didn't have to write it like that, Rachel snapped. All caps. Really? It's not fucking Hallmark card, I said. I had to drag myself through that shit. But then, they only heard what they wanted. The bathroom wasn't much better. Rachel had long hair, the kind that clogged drains and blanketed the shower like a horror film. I didn't have any shower chair. I had to sit directly in the tub, and her hair would cling to my thighs and back. I asked again and again for her to clean up after herself. I don't care if your hair falls out, I told her, but it's sticking to me and it's disgusting. She'd shrug and say, I forget. Halfway through our lease, her boyfriend lost his job. Suddenly, they stopped paying for gas, electric, and internet. I was the one managing the bills. I'd cover everything and ask them for their share. And they'd say, next week. Rent receipts? They would toss them. I had to start photographing them just as proof. Then, her mom moved in. No heads up, no conversation. One day I came home and she was just there, parked in the guest room like she owned the place. She didn't pay rent, didn't help with utilities, and stayed for 4 months. The guest room had my extra single bed. When I told them I was taking it with me when I moved out, they acted like I was evicting her. You're seriously taking the bed? Rachel hissed. It's my bed, I said. Her mom chimed in. I just don't know how someone could be so cruel, taking the place to sleep from me. You do realize I'm moving out, right? I'm not leaving my furniture behind for free. They both ignored me. Rachel walked into the kitchen and shut the door behind her like I wasn't even worth responding to. The silence was deafening. It wasn't just passive-aggressive. It was aggressive. Rachel, my best friend of 10 years, acted like I'd personally betrayed her by setting boundaries, by wanting hygiene, basic respect. I packed my shit in silence. I didn't tell them the exact day I was leaving. I just did it. One trip at a time, I loaded my car with my things, bedding, and my dignity. They never paid their part of the security deposit. The landlord didn't return a cent of it either. The house was trashed. The deck was ruined, reeking of dog urine. The walls were scratched up. The bathroom tiles were permanently stained. The landlord sent me a bill, and I refused to pay. The house still haunts me. Not because of ghosts, but because I let myself believe loyalty meant anything to people like them. Rachel texted me a month after I left. You really didn't have to make things so dramatic. I stared at the screen. You pissed on my wheelchair. I deleted the message. Let the ghosts haunt them now. I'm not going back. This story was inspired from a real-life event that happened to one of our subscribers. She underwent this ordeal with her roommate and still thinks about her time with her sometimes, but not in a good way.
The story is inspired from a real-life incident which happened in the year 2024 in South Carolina. A bizarre food fight broke out at Jack in the Box. More details about the incident after the story. My sister Joni is a real piece of work. If you talked with her for more than a minute, you know she was a Karen. Expecting everything to go her way, flipping out at the slightest inconvenience. I loved her, of course. She was my sister. But sometimes it was pretty hard to listen to her ranting. Last weekend, we were supposed to meet for lunch at her favorite cafe. Unfortunately, they wouldn't let her in. I guess she'd thrown a fit the last time she was there. I suggested a few other restaurants we could go to, but she rejected each one. I'm not 100% sure, but it seemed like she'd been banned from all those places too. Like I said, Joni was a real piece of work. With no other options, we decided to go to the McDonald's at the end of the street. Neither of us wanted fast food, but we were both hungry. We went to the counter where a girl waited to take our order. Joni ordered a 10-piece chicken nugget combo. I was about to ask for the same, but Joni grabbed my arm and said, "Oh, honey, do you always have to copy me?" I thought that was a weird thing to get upset about. Why would she care what I ordered? But I didn't want her to be in a bad mood before we even sat down, so I changed my order to a fish sandwich. She expected me to pay for both of us, so I did. We sat at a table by the window and waited for our food. Joni immediately started complaining about her husband. I pretended to listen. I tried to change the topic to something else, anything else. But as always, she went back to complaining. Eventually, she got up to go to the restroom. While she was gone, our order got ready and I collected it from the counter. I knew I shouldn't, but I got a really devious thought. I saw that Joni had all 10 of her chicken nuggets on her tray. Before she got back from the restroom, I grabbed 2 of the nuggets and popped them into my mouth. They tasted delicious. So much better than my fish sandwich. I hated that she convinced me to change my order. I finished chewing right when Joni returned to the table. She was rubbing Purell on her hands.
That restroom is disgusting. I think I should talk to the manager.
Once she sat down, she looked at the tray of food in front of her. I watched her expression change as she counted her nuggets.
Jesus Christ, can you believe this? My nuggets are missing.
I had to hide my smile. What are you talking about? They're right there.
Are you stupid? Don't you know how to count? There should be 10 nuggets, not 8.
Well, I guess I'm glad I followed your advice and ordered something else. Her fingers trembled with rage. Joni pulled out her phone to take photos of her food, to document the injustice. I had to bite my cheek to stop from laughing. She got out of her chair, ready to rush over to the counter and scream at the poor worker. I grabbed her arm to stop her. I paid for the meal, remember? Let me complain, okay? Joni obviously didn't like deferring to me, but she couldn't think of a counter-argument. She sat back down and crossed her arms, like a little kid who just got sent to timeout. I walked back to the counter. The worker smiled at me, and I smiled back. Hi, I know this is kind of a weird situation, but my friend over there is planning to cause a scene. She ate 2 of her chicken nuggets, but she's gonna act like you never gave them to her. It's a scam she's done at other fast food locations. I just wanted to warn you in case you wanted to get your manager. Okay, I'll be right back. When the manager came out, I told him the same thing I told his employee, that my sister was planning to scam them. Thanks for letting me know. Then I returned to her table. Joni's jaw was clenched as she waited to hear what the manager had said to me. I'm sorry, Joni, but the man said there was nothing he could do. He says you got all 10 of your nuggets. He thinks you're scamming them or something.
That is unacceptable.
She jumped out of her chair and stormed toward the manager. He towered over her, probably outweighed her by 100 pounds, too.
My nuggets! Give me my nuggets, you fucking thief!
Joni dove over the counter and grabbed the manager by his shirt. I wasn't expecting things to escalate this quickly. She tried to punch the man in the nose, but he twisted out of the way.
Nuggets!
I guess the restaurant had a taser hidden under the counter in case of situations like this one. With her body stretched across the counter and her fingers clawing at the manager, the man pulled out the taser and zapped her. I watched Joni twitch uncontrollably. That lasted for about 5 seconds before she fell limply onto the counter. Then she slid onto the floor, moving like she didn't have any bones in her body. The manager called 911. Hello, police. We have another Karen incident. Before Joni regained the energy to stand, I finished the last of her nuggets. Slowly, she got back to her feet and limped back over to the table. You okay? I'd never seen my sister so furious in her life, and I'd seen her get angry a lot. She looked down at her tray, seeing that all the chicken nuggets were gone. Oh, sorry, you can have my fish sandwich if you want. In the year 2024, a Jack in the Box customer confronted staff about a missing curly fries order and became aggressive. Footage from Spartanburg, South Carolina, revealed that the customer yelled for her food, threw display signs, and danced tauntingly before hitting one of the workers. After she threw a metal object, a worker punched her, starting a larger fight. Other employees jumped in, and the customer's friend also participated in the fight. There are no further details about the case on whether the authorities got involved.
I hated working for this e-commerce company because I got yelled at every day for not being able to meet management's ridiculous expectations. They fired me because I didn't finish my assigned route, but let me tell you why I didn't finish it. To say I had a good reason is an understatement. What did they want me to do? Leave that girl? The day started like any other. Before the sun began climbing up the horizon, I was up making coffee. I filled up my 34-ounce coffee tumbler and was on my way. I was never a morning person, but one thing I loved about that job was watching the sunrise. This particular morning, the sun cast a deep pink color across the clouds with yellow streaks. When I arrived at the warehouse, I was informed I would be covering someone else's route, along with my usual one. I needed the money, so I welcomed the overtime. The route I picked up would take me deep into the swamp. The rural routes were the worst because time moved so slowly with such long distances between stops. I took the news with a smile, collected all the packages for both routes, and was on my way. My usual route took me 7 hours. It was mostly in the suburbs, so it was easy and predictable. Lots of dogs barked at me. Some places had front doors I had to hunt for. At one of the stops, a cat came out and greeted me. Once all those packages were delivered, I pivoted to the other route. The first stop was a 45-minute drive from where I was. I sighed and said, "So it begins." Rural routes have about the same number of packages as urban ones, but fewer stops. It takes just as long to do the rural routes because you drive for so long between houses. It was business as usual until I rolled up to this hut of a home. It looked like it would fall into the swamp and sink if someone sneezed too close to it. It sat on the water's edge and was hidden among the green trees. This stop had a lot of packages, way more than all the others. I needed to unload 12 boxes, the most I have ever had to drop at one location. I started unloading the boxes and putting them by the front door. On my second trip, the front door creaked open as I stood up from placing the boxes. I recoiled back to see a scraggly old man. He had a few tufts of hair on his head and wore a grease-stained wife-beater with very short shorts. His thighs were so white the sunlight reflected off them, hurting my eyes. Honestly, he may have been wearing briefs. "You delivery guy?" he barked at me. His voice sounded rusted from a life of smoking cigarettes. "Yes, sir," I answered. "You have a few more packages and then I'll be on my way." He didn't say anything in response, but whipped out a switchblade to start ripping open the boxes. I continued unloading my van. I had 2 more trips I needed to make for him. As I put the last few down, the old man snapped, "You're not going anywhere until I confirm everything is here." I couldn't give good enough a reason for not staying, so I just nodded. As he ripped boxes open, I peered into his home. There wasn't much to it, except one door locked from the outside with a padlock. It hid behind a round dinner table. The old man started grumbling to himself. "They think they can steal from me. I'll show them." "Who stole from you?" I asked. He must have forgotten I was there because my question startled him. "You did," he whispered with spite. This catapulted him into a rant about a package that was supposedly delivered, but he never received it. I suggested that it might have been delivered to the wrong address or stolen. Either way, I told him, you can file a claim and they should refund you or send you a replacement. No problem. That happened to me before, and they were quick to make it right. He stared into my eyes, not saying anything, just scowling at me. He pointed his switchblade at me. "You're not going anywhere until I make sure everything is here," he growled. I lifted my hands in defense. You got it, man. Whatever makes you comfortable." From under the locked door, I saw a shadow move. I looked at the man, and he was focused on taking stock of his purchases. "Anyone live here with you? A wife, maybe?" I asked. He turned away from the packages and got up in my face. "That's none of your goddamn business!" "Okay, sorry, just trying to make small talk," I responded. Something about the locked door didn't sit right with me. Obviously, locking any door from the outside is suspicious. Like, what did he keep in there? "I'm just going to make sure I didn't forget anything in the truck for you," I said, so I could sneak away for a second to investigate. I walked to the back of my truck and peered around it to wait until he became absorbed by his packages again. Before moving to the side of the house, I assessed the route. I needed to be quick and quiet, or else the old man would notice. Once I had a plan, I was off. I snaked my way to the side of the house and looked through the windows. The old man must have been a hoarder because there were piles of junk everywhere. Flies danced in the air in every room. I couldn't see much of the kitchen, but I could see the peak of a mountain of dishes. After a few more steps, I could see into the locked room. The windows had newspapers taped over them, but I found one small hole that allowed me to peek in. I couldn't believe my eyes. There was a pregnant young woman who couldn't have been more than 21 years old. Her blonde hair was so long. Must have been years since her last haircut. In her room, I could make out a tattered mattress on the floor and a large stack of books that looked like each must have been read 5 times. The girl spotted my eye in the hole. She gasped and held her stomach. She put a finger over her mouth to signal me to be quiet. It's not like I was going to holler at the old man, but who knows the last time she saw someone? She mouthed, "Help." Carefully, I made it back to my van. I looked at the old man. He now had his phone out. He must have been cross-checking the app. I took out my phone to call the authorities, but had no service. I returned to the old man and tried to figure out what to do. That girl had been locked up for years by the looks of it. I wondered if anyone had ever called the police on the man before. Was he the kind that could change his demeanor and fool the police to get them to go away? I felt he may have been, because to keep someone hostage for so long, you have to have some evasion skills. I wondered if I had anything that could break the lock in my van. But then I had my idea. "Excuse me, sir, is there any chance I could use your bathroom? I don't get to stop very often, so might as well now that I have a chance." He looked me up and down. He turned to look in his house and turned back to assess me again. "Sure, follow me," he said. I thanked him, and he led me inside. The piles of junk were divided by skinny walkways so he could move through his home. I followed him to the bathroom, and he motioned to it. I had to squeeze by him to get into the bathroom without knocking over his clutter. The bathroom was disgusting. The old man probably never cleaned it. The toilet was such a dark brown it looked black. I planned to find something in his home to smash the lock, but he didn't leave the bathroom door. I saw his shadow below the door, waiting to escort me out. I looked around the bathroom. The heaviest thing I could find was the lid of the back of the toilet. I peed to keep up appearances. I grabbed the toilet lid and opened the door slowly. "Did you wash your hands?" he asked, disgusted. Before I could process that he, of all people, commented on my hygiene, I lifted the porcelain lid and smashed it on his head. It cracked in half. The old man collapsed, knocking over a bunch of newspapers. I jumped over him and headed to the locked room. As I hurried over, I tried to find bolt cutters or something to break the door open. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw an axe. Quickly, I grabbed it and climbed over all the old man's junk to break the door down. "Get away from the door!" I yelled at the girl. At the first swing of the axe, I heard her gasp behind the door. I kept swinging until a big enough hole was created to kick down the rest. The girl was crying. I extended my hand and helped her through the hole. The man began to grumble and get up. "Hey!" he yelled. "What the hell do you think you're doing? Do you have any idea who you're stealing from?" The girl paid him no regard and bolted to the door. We couldn't move that fast because of how pregnant she was, but we made it to the van before the old man could get on his feet. I helped her into the passenger seat and buckled her in. I backed my van out and sped away. We went to the nearest police station to file a report. The girl explained how she wasn't sure how long she had been there. She had been there so long she couldn't remember her real family. The girl explained how this was her second pregnancy. Her first one had miscarried, and it made the man so mad he refused to feed her for a week. The police returned to the old man to take him into custody, but they found him dead. He had taken his gun and shot himself in the head. By the time I made it back to the warehouse, my supervisor was furious. I explained the situation to him, thinking he would understand, but he said I should have alerted him so that they could have dispatched someone to pick up the rest of the packages. That's why they fired me. Ridiculous, right? They said it was my third strike or something for not finishing my route. But I thought they'd cut me a break since I saved a kidnapping victim. I still haven't found a job, but the girl, Rebecca, was reunited with her family. So who cares if I lost my job? I helped reunite a family.